Welcome to the Movie Draft Podcast. I'm Ethan Sophie, and today I am joined by my co-host, Sophie Holsinger.
Hi, Barbie.
Wow, you would. And our guest, Bryan Sudfield.
What do you mean you don't like jazz?
Oh, God, you guys. And today, we are collaboratively drafting Ryan Gosling films. If you couldn't figure it out from the quippy intros that co-hosts and guests are allowed to do, and I am not able to get out, we're talking about Ryan Gosling here in the pod. The Fall Guy releases on May 3rd. We're celebrating the release of a new Ryan Gosling movie by collaboratively drafting 11 Ryan Gosling films together against each other. We're going to find out as we go. Bryan, you're the guest on this episode. How are you doing today? Welcome to the Movie Draft Pod, man. We're so glad that you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. I'm very excited to collab with you guys today about Ryan Gosling. I'm doing great. This has been a long time coming. Ethan told me about this podcast so long ago, and now I'm finally here podcasting with the two of you, and I couldn't be more than excited to do it, especially about this topic. I'm very excited to talk about Gosling with you guys.
I'm very glad that you're here, Bryan. Like you said, it's been a long time coming. Sophie, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Movie Draft Pod. It's good to have you. I feel like you haven't been on an episode for a while, but maybe it's only been one or two. It's just not the same without you. But you're here today.
I'm here today. I'm glad to be back recording. Yeah, it does feel like it's been a minute. I'm glad to be here talking about my guy.
Probably just off working on your strategy, figuring out where your heart lies for Gosling. Like I mentioned, The Fall Guy releases on May 3rd, so this is kind of in celebration of that release. Bryan and myself were lucky enough to be at the world premiere of The Fall Guy at South by Southwest. Ryan Gosling was there. Emily Blunt was there. It was cool. It was awesome. The movie's it's good. It's a movie with Ryan Gosling, and we saw it, and it's out there. I do recommend you go check it out when it comes out in theaters. And much more importantly, I recommend the Academy start giving out Oscars for stunt work. We'll talk about The Fall Guy as we go. We will not, however, be able to nominate The Fall Guy here in this collaborative draft because we are technically drafting before the movie has released. And although Bryan and I have seen it, Sophie has not seen it. So a little unfair. So we're not going to play it. It's out of play today. I know we just did a collaborative draft a few episodes ago, the 2010s directorial debuts. We've got another one today for Ryan Gosling. Now, a little peek behind the scenes. We've been planning this episode for a while. We were originally going to do a regular draft. And then like 2 days ago, I was like, you know what? We got to go collab. That's the only way to do Gosling. Bryan, do you feel like that was a good move? How do you feel coming into a collaborative draft instead of a regular draft?
I mean, I had so much prep time for this original idea for a draft. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm so ready to do this and everything. But then when you texted us that, I'm like, shit, it's over. It's over.
I turned the tables on you.
You really did. You really did.
Well, I will say, and Ben is not here today, but I ran it by him and I was like, Ben, I'm pretty sure we got to go collab, right? And he's like, yeah, that's the way to go. Sophie, you think collab is the right way to celebrate our boy?
I do. I think was the right move. I also think it was the right move for me and my schedule and my Ryan Gosling knowledge, because in my research, I haven't seen as many Gosling films as I maybe thought that I had. Uh-huh. So this will be good working together.
Yeah, working together. Yeah, very important that you threw that in there. I'm trepidatious to say the least. I do think collab is the way to go, and I think it's the right way to cover the Gosling filmography because he obviously does have a couple standouts, a few very core kind of film, like film bro-y movies. I guess we could kind of stance it as that. But I think collaborative is much more interesting because we're going to have to dive into the well a little bit here. We're going to have to get some maybe non-conventional Gosling movies on the list and see where we agree. Bryan, I'll start with you. What's your relationship to Ryan Gosling? Do you remember the first movie you saw him in? Do you seek out his films? Do you go see his new stuff? How do you feel about him?
Well, originally I wasn't a huge Ryan Gosling guy, but admittedly it's because when you have an older sister that watches The Notebook religiously, it kind of rubs you the wrong way. It doesn't present the best image of Ryan Gosling to you.
Sure.
He just looks like he's kind of the heartthrob guy that has the good looks, but not necessarily the good acting chops. But it wasn't until 2011 where he had that huge trifecta of Crazy Stupid Love, Drive, and Ides of March, where he was pumping out banger after banger and showing these different sides of him. And I'm like, okay, yeah, not only is this guy a devilishly handsome dude, he's actually an incredibly talented actor. And as the years have progressed, he worked with all these incredible filmmakers and done all these different genres and worked in some of the best films, not only of the decade, but films that have been regarded as maybe the best of all time, which is saying a lot. Gosling's a very versatile actor, which I really appreciate too. I like that he isn't someone that just does one specific kind of role. He's a man of all trades. He's a jack of all trades, which I really appreciate. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of him. Definitely has become one of my favorite actors over the last few years, but it took a while for me to regard him in that way. But once I became a fan, I immediately became a fan. And you asked the question if I seek out anytime he has a movie come out. Absolutely. Anytime he's attached to someone, I will be there opening weekend. It could be about the stupidest thing in the world, and I will absolutely be hooked just because he's attached to it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take. Where are you at on Gosling, Sophie?
I love him. I mean, what's not to love? I think Bryan kind of insinuated this about his sister, but as a young girl, Ryan Gosling is one of the first real, like, adult man heartthrobs that I was locked into. And I don't know. I don't think I would consider him one of my favorite actors just because I don't think that the projects he chooses are always super interesting to me, but I'm never unhappy to see him, and I don't think he's ever given a bad performance from what I've seen. But like I said, I haven't seen as many as I would have liked, so I don't have a huge stake in this game. I'm really just here because I wanted to podcast with my friends and get the one Ryan Gosling movie that I have a relationship with to the top of the list. So here we are.
All right, we got a mission here that we're here to accomplish. I feel like Bryan and I share a similar sentiment about the top film, which I think is an interesting pros for this collab draft, because obviously 2010s that we did a couple of weeks ago, a Ryan Gosling movie did make it on that collaborative draft. We're going to see this week if it maybe reappears here on this list. But it was a much more different energy on that collab draft than it is here, because the pool was so wide. Here, obviously, we have a pretty select amount of movies starring Ryan Gosling. Obviously, any feature film is eligible here. I know that this isn't really, or I guess the way the pot is structured doesn't really allow itself to have a conversation about maybe what you said, Sophie, about some of the projects that he chooses, things he has coming up. I think if those movies present themselves, I think that's a conversation worth having, because I do agree with you. I think as of late, he's made some interesting choices, to say the least. I'm very pro Gosling. I love Ryan Gosling. I think he has not delivered a poor performance really in kind of anything. And I do think while versatile and presenting unique performances in certain movies, he definitely has like an aura about him that he was able to capture kind of in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And as of late, choosing some different projects has maybe broken that mold a little bit, which I find really fascinating. He, of course, has a couple upcoming things. One of them, the Margot Robbie Ocean's 11 film, which I think is fantastic. Project Hail Mary. He was attached to Wolfman, but I believe he's been replaced. And then we have a Gray Man sequel. I'm not going to say anything about that. We're just going to move on. Because the Gray Man's eligible for this collab draft. Will it show itself? God can only hope not. We will see, though. Okay, before we say too much, Bryan, you know I got to ask. I ask every guest. I ask every pod. You got a strategy that you're coming in with? You've never been part of a collab draft. You have avidly listened to them, as you proclaimed to us a little bit before we started recording. So I feel like you come with some preparations and you're ready to go.
I mean, on your other podcast, I did a collab draft with you and Ben, and that was definitely a far different one because we did one on Spielberg, and obviously his filmography is much larger than Ryan Gosling's. I can't really say I have a strategy. I'm just kind of playing it on a whim. I'm just playing it by ear. We're gonna hope for the best.
Hear that going into this.
I know. Believe me, I'm not too positive on it either. But you know what? I can't say I have a strategy, and I don't know. I really have no idea.
Oh no, this is no good. This is no good because I'm in a very similar boat. I just have zero idea how I'm going to approach this draft. And I'm just getting more and more nervous the closer we get to actually drafting here because I'm genuinely curious. And Sophie, I'll pose this question to you because I think you're obviously a seasoned veteran of some collaborative drafts here. You've been part of some pretty big ones that have had some pretty damning consequences for your online personality, to say the least. Is this Ryan Gosling collaborative draft? Do you think this will, in fact, be the most collaborative draft that we have embarked on yet?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it looks like it. If none of us really have a strategy, I feel like we're kind of just going to be throwing things at the wall and not really... I don't know. I think like what you said, we might all have a consensus of what might be at the top. So the bottom might be just a little bit random, a little bit of everything working together, like I said. So yeah, I would say yeah.
I think that's very interesting because generally the way these things work is you kind of want to position yourself in order to make sure you get what you want at the top of the list. This might present itself to be a little bit more flexible. Maybe one of us does want to inject some weirdo movies down at the bottom of the list before we get to a unanimous top 3 or 5, whatever you guys think it may be. I will just say that while in theory this could be our most collaborative draft yet, I don't think it's going to pan out the way you guys think it is. We'll just say that. So with that, we will prepare ourselves for this collaborative draft. Now, Ben usually does the explaining, and I will try my best to explain the rules of the collaborative draft in his stead because he is not here. Somebody that hasn't seen Blade Runner 2049, I kind of just didn't allow him to be on the pod, quite honestly. Not allowed. Okay, so whether the strategy is to go in for the win or work together, there's obviously only going to be one team, one list standing when this is all said and done, and that will be a collaborative board of 11 films starring Ryan Gosling, and that's what we're working towards today. As always with our collaborative drafts, I want to give a special shout out to Screen Drafts, a podcast that we kind of use their template to iterate this version of a collaborative draft. So thank you to them. They're a fantastic podcast. Go check them out. Go listen to them. Okay, let's explain the picks and the abilities of the draft. Obviously, there's 3 of us here drafting today. We've got A, B, and C. Drafter A is going to get picks 1, 4, and 7. They will have 2 vetoes available. So they are able to veto any movie that they, of course, do not nominate themselves. Drafter B is going to get picks 2, 5, 8, and 9. So you get an extra pick in there, but you only get 1 veto as your ability. Drafter C is going to get picks 3, 6, 10, and 11. They're going to get 1 veto and 1 veto override. Now, that override must be played on something other than what they nominate. If I nominate The Nice Guys at number 10 and Sophie vetoes it because she wants it higher up the board, Bryan can then use his veto override if he has one to keep it in its position. So it's kind of a full swing of the board here, and we all kind of have to work on that. Okay, so we're gonna spin for positions. If your name is spun, if it lands on your name, you do in fact get to pick what drafter you want to be. Bryan, is there a certain position that you're hoping to get?
I'm going to say B. I feel like it's safe to say B because my name starts with a B, so why not go that route?
That is very sound logic, and I couldn't ask for anything more, honestly. Sophie, you hoping to go a certain direction?
I mean, yeah, I feel like there's one that makes sense for me, but I'm not going to say it out loud.
Shoot, you know too well. I do not know which one I want. So in all honesty, I hope you guys get picked, and then I'll just take what I get.
Cool.
That might put me in a good spot. We'll see. Okay, let's draft. Let's collaboratively draft here. 11 Ryan Gosling movies. I've got the spinner here. I'm going to tap to spin. I'm showing you guys on the screen who is going to be chosen. And it is Sophie who is going to get to choose which drafting position she wants. Sophie, where do you want to go?
I would like to be drafter A.
Ooh, interesting. Okay, Sophie is going to be drafter A. Bryan, it's between you and I for the next pick here, and we shall see. Ooh, almost Bryan, but it's going to be me. Okay, shoot, I really was not hoping that would be the case. Okay, I'm gonna take drafter B. I'm gonna steal it from you, Bryan.
Son of a bitch.
I want drafter B. That number 2 is just looking too delicious, quite honestly. I can't pass that up.
God.
So, okay, I'm gonna write these down so we don't forget, because that would be troublesome on all fronts here. Bryan, you're gonna start us off. You've got pick 11 and pick 10. I'm just gonna say real quick before we start the collaborative draft, not to put too much pressure on you or anything like that, but just don't fuck this up, because these are very important spots, and you have to do this the right way in order for all of this to work. So, like I said, no pressure, but just follow your heart, but don't do the wrong thing. That's what I'll say.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay. All right.
Just don't mess up, Bryan. Just pick the right movie.
Shut up. I'm trying to think. Okay. So for number 11, this is a very difficult number to start out with. It's very difficult that I have to be the one to pick the first film on the list. So even though I kind of shattered on the movie moments ago, I think I'm going to put The Notebook at number 11. Even though I said that watching this movie on loop with my older sister was very nauseating, I did actually revisit this movie a few years ago, and I actually was very surprised by how much I liked it. This is definitely the film that launched Gosling into stardom. He had done a few smaller roles beforehand. Remember the Titans was a pretty big film, but you don't think of Ryan Gosling when you think of that film right away. The Notebook was really what catapulted people into paying attention to Ryan Gosling, and one of the best sequences ever on screen in the rain is in this movie. I feel like if you talk about great kissing scenes in the rain, I mean, they just re-released Spider-Man in theaters, and obviously that's an all-timer, kissing scene in the rain, but I think The Notebook is not too far behind that, and his chemistry with Rachel McAdams is really the reason why this movie is worth checking out for sure. Otherwise, it's your run-of-the-mill romance movie. It's definitely the best Nicholas Sparks movie out there. I can't really say if you guys are fans of the other Nicholas Sparks films out there. I'm curious to hear your insight on those. But I think of all the ones that have been adapted to screen, this is the best one. Cannot comment on the book, but as a film on its own, it's a nice, wholesome, harmless, romantic dramedy, and two hot people are in it. They're delivering really good performances. And yeah, Gosling is really strong in this, and he and Rachel McAdams are the reason why this movie works as well as it does. And I feel like 11 is a good spot for this movie. I feel like if anyone puts it higher than, if anyone puts it in the 10, I just don't think it would vibe very well personally.
This is fascinating. So Sophie, how do you feel about The Notebook?
Well, The Notebook was definitely going to go on this list, no matter what. If it wasn't being played at 11, it was. I would play it at 1. I don't really care.
What? Stop!
This is my introduction to Ryan Gosling, and I wouldn't say that The Notebook itself is a great movie with great messages, but inside of it, there are 2 incredible lead performances, and I think Ryan Gosling delivers like this really subtle and shy performance with these explosive moments, and just portrays this really like intense love that feels so real. I love it. I love it so much. I definitely think that it's the best Nicholas Sparks movie. It's kind of just, it's a guilty pleasure, girly sleepover movie, and I needed it on the list. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so pro 11. You're good keeping it at 11?
Yeah. Yes, I'm pro 11.
Okay. So I saw The Notebook for the first time like 2 nights ago. Because I was like, well, we're obviously going to talk about The Notebook here on the collab draft. It's going to happen. 11 seems like a perfect spot for this. I personally would not have it on my 11 for Ryan Gosling. I do not think The Notebook is a very good film whatsoever. It's just not very good. But coming from a guy who's almost 30 who just like did not grow up on this movie, I have no like personal connection to it. So there's that. My wife did in fact watch it with me. She rarely watches films with me. I have 2 anecdotes about this film that I want to share very quickly. Number 1, we got to the end of the Notebook, and spoilers, I'm sorry if you haven't seen The Notebook, but you're out of time. 20 years is kind of the spoiler limit here. They pass away together while holding hands at the very, very end. And my wife goes, well, they died together. That's exciting. And then walked out of the room. So I don't know what that means about the review of the film. The second thing that I thought was very, very funny about this movie that plays really well as a comedy if you're in that kind of headspace, and I was, and we were, obviously James Marsden is in this movie as Lon, who is kind of the rich guy that Rachel McAdams ends up settling for, kind of moving towards. And while she's engaged to Lon, she obviously goes to Ryan Gosling's little mansion that he builds, and they get it on, and it's very, very hot, and 2 very hot people. And the first thing that she remarks after they have sex is, she says something along the lines of like, you mean I could have been having that this whole time? And the only thing that Molly and I could imagine was like, Lon doesn't have the D. Like he just can't give it to her. And my boy Ryan Gosling has it. And that's, truth be told, I'm sure it's accurate. And so I feel good about that for The Notebook making the list right here. I think Gosling is good in it. Sophie, like you said, I think he gives a very subtle performance with some pretty explosive breaks, and he's really good at that. Yeah, I'm okay with 11. Shout out my boy Gos. Just, make it happen. Okay, Bryan, we're back to you for number 10.
Number 10 might honestly be harder to pick than number 11, if I'm being honest. Like Sophie kind of said, like, you can't do a top 11 Ryan Gosling list without including The Notebook at number 11. So I'm really glad that I was able to do that. But number 10, there's so many options to choose from. But I think I'm going to go with Lars and the Real Girl at number 10. Objectively, for me, if this was just my list, this would be a lot higher. But I don't know if I could see it being that high for this collaborative job. But yeah, this is Gosling at a pretty vulnerable side, but it's also a very hilarious film at the same time. It's very lovely and endearing. Basically, for people who don't know, it's the movie where he brings a girlfriend who's a life-size plastic woman. And it's been memed to death and everything. But
she's a sex doll, Bryan. Let's be honest. She's anatomically correct. Respect Bianca.
Okay.
Respect Bianca.
Okay. Bianca the sex doll. Yes. But, a lot of people look at this and then just like brush it off as like a joke and everything. But it's actually a really deeply moving film because the character of Lars, he's super shy and he has social skills that are really bad, and he can't make friends and can't find anyone. So then he brings this sex doll on the way, and he somewhat finds a way of feeling like he belongs. And you know what? It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, but I remember being very pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it. And Gosling's performance was so good, and Craig Gillespie made it, and I'm usually very hit or miss with him. Honestly, more miss with him than hit, but I think this might be my favorite thing that he's directed. And yeah, I don't know what else I could really say about Lars and the Real Girl because it's been a long time since I've watched it, but I remember being pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it. And Gosling's performance was really excellent and definitely the reason why people should check this out. But again, it tackles all these themes in a more poignant way than one can anticipate. and it does it beautifully. So Lars and the Real Girl is at number 10.
Okay.
I don't like that. I don't like
Interesting.
that. I don't like that.
I want to get Sophie's take. So, Sophie, have you seen Lars and the Real Girl?
I have not. It was going to be one of the movies that I wanted to watch it this week. Didn't happen, but I know you watched it this week, Ethan.
I did, in fact. Yes, I did, in fact, watch Lars and the Real Girl yesterday, actually. A couple things about this movie. There's a house party scene where they start blasting "This Is the Place" by Talking Heads, and I just immediately started weeping. I thought it was fantastic. Because in that same scene, Ryan Gosling also begins to weep because he realizes the community of people around him have accepted his relationship with Bianca, and he is growing towards his understanding of how a society works and how to engage with real people instead of Bianca, his sex doll. I think Ryan Gosling's performance in this is kind of astounding, honestly, because it's a silicone doll that like he's acting with here. And the fact that for 100 minutes we buy into this, and I will not spoil this movie. I'm glad it wasn't spoiled for me at the end, so I'll keep it spoiler free. But what this film is able to do narratively and performance wise from Gosling at the end, I was like, why am I tearing up? This is weird. And it was fantastic, and I loved it. So seeing it at number 10 is tough. But here's the thing. When we get into the top 9 here, and generally with an 11 board, I feel like once we hit 6-5, that's when things start to get really dicey, because then we're really locking things down. With Ryan Gosling, I feel like these next 9 are imperative, and there are very cornerstone films that I'm worried might have the possibility of getting left out if things are not played in the right circumstance. So I'm going to keep Lars and the Real Girl at 10. I'm okay with that, Bryan. You're good with that, Sophie?
I'm good with that.
You're good with that. Okay. So keep that movie here because I do think it's important to have it on this list. I personally think it's a little low, but again, Gosling's filmography is very interesting because you get into these 9, and I think we'll have a lot to discuss.
Yeah, like having it in number 10 doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. It's a really strong movie. It just comes to show that the other 9 films that we're probably going to be talking about are just it's hard. It's hard when you rank the filmography of Gosling.
Yeah, it's tough. Okay. I'm putting a pickle here. So I've got the 9 pick, and if I'm going by my personal list, things might get a little out of hand very early. And I don't know if I really want to elicit that. I don't know if I feel good about that. I'm not really a veto farmer kind of a guy, you know. I'm not trying to get you guys to play your vetoes, although I will say the last collab draft, that plan panned out for me pretty well. So I don't know what to do here, and I'm just vamping because I legitimately don't know what to do. Okay, I'm going to play a movie that I like quite substantially. I think it's better than the original, which is highly regarded as a true cinematic masterpiece. I'm going to play Blade Runner 2049 in this 9 spot here. I think Ryan Gosling is really good in this movie. I think the movie as a whole, obviously directed by Denis Villeneuve, is astounding. But I think Ryan Gosling is really interesting because he kind of does this thing that he does in First Man, where he plays this like really insular, quiet, subdued guy who's just kind of like on a mission. He's just like here for one purpose, and he's just trying to figure things out. And we're kind of watching the gears turn. Obviously, we get the famous Blade Runner 2049 meme of him screaming kind of in the box. I think it's a really good movie. It's hard for me to play it at 9, but I think that's right. But I don't know how you guys feel.
I'm shocked that this is so low. I thought for sure this was going to be like in the top 5.
Oh, this is interesting.
I mean, I personally, like, I wouldn't have cared either way. I think it's funny because I'm definitely more drawn to, not to show my cards, but to Ryan Gosling in like a more charming and comedic role, and his in Blade Runner and in other films that we are going to talk about, it's still, his performances are still so good because his presence is enough and just holds so much weight, and kind of like what you said earlier, like his aura and his like swagger almost is is enough. Like it holds your attention the entire time, even if the dialogue isn't like rapid or constant. So I mean, I'm fine with this. I'm honestly just shocked. I don't know why.
I'm glad I could shock you. I'm shocked that Bryan hasn't spoken. It's making me nervous.
Well, Sophie said I'm shocked. I'm extremely shocked that this is this low. I'm extremely shocked.
Shoot.
because I also expected this to be in the top 5 as well.
Expected it to be in the top 5 from me personally, or just as a collaborative unit here? As
a collaborative unit. I mean, I never knew where you stood on, and same with you, Sophie. I don't know where you guys stood on this movie beforehand. I tried to not do research, and like I know that some people have come on to like explore your letterboxes and see what you guys rate all these other movies.
The Tyler Whitmore strategy.
Yes, I'm not Tyler Whitmore, so I'm doing my own strategy and not copying other people's strategies. But
oh wow, okay, interesting.
Would you have played it higher, Ethan? Like why did you put it here?
No, I wouldn't have played it higher. I think this is good. I think like I said, I personally, I'm a little confused about what to do here, because there are two sides to Gosling. There are this side, the Blade Runner 2049 side, the First Man side, the Drive side, and then there's the Barbie side, the La La Land side, the Nice Guys side. So I feel like we have these two sides of the coin. And I don't particularly know where you guys land on where you guys want those on the board, but this is interesting to me because I literally actually have it at number 9 in my Ryan Gosling ranking. So I stayed true to my personal heart, my unencumbered opinion. And I don't know. I just don't know. So what do we do? Do one of you want to veto it? Do you feel strongly enough about it to move it up the board? Is the question.
No, I don't.
Oof.
I do.
Wow, really?
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
I'm very strong about this. So.
Wow. Okay. Bryan, using a veto. Okay.
I'm going to use a veto on this one.
Well, as classic collaborative fashion, I feel like I'm always the first person to get vetoed. I feel like this just happens every single time. So I feel really good about it. Back to the drawing board. Here we go. Shit. Okay. Blade Runner 2049's got a bump. We got a bump. Okay. Guys. This puts me in a pickle.
Makes it more exciting.
I don't know what to do. Okay. I'm going to mix things up a little bit. I'm going to go with a movie where he is exceptionally charming, where I think he's a very core player. A movie that I unfortunately did not have time to revisit, so my placement on this might be a little dated. So we're going to see. But I am going to throw... I literally don't know what you guys want. I'm going to throw Crazy Stupid Love in number 9 here. I think he's very good. He's very core charming Gosling in this movie. Obviously, you kind of get the Dirty Dancing scene with Emma Stone, and he is just unbelievably attractive. And everything that he does in this movie, I think, is what people want from him. Being very funny, being very sexy, being very just out there, just being Gosling. And I think it works very, very well. So I'm going to put Crazy Stupid Love at number 9. And I don't like that nobody has said anything yet. Oh my God.
Well, instead of talking about Crazy Stupid Love right now, I'm just going to veto it.
Stop! What are we doing? Guys! Oh my God. My recording shed is like, it's hot outside, so it's baking in here, and you guys are making me sweat like twice as much. Oh my God. Bryan, anything to say about this? Would you have vetoed it as well?
I would have.
Wow, I'm not trying to get vetoes idea. I'm trying to work together, and I feel like an asshole. I feel so mean. Oh, I feel so mean. Okay. Shoot. Okay, so Sophie, you've used one of your 2 vetoes. Mm-hmm. Bryan, you are out of vetoes. Is that correct? That's how we stand.
Yes.
Okay. So, Sophie, you have 1 veto left. Bryan, you've got a veto override. And I am now moving on to my 3rd pick in the number 9 spot. We've put 2 movies on this list, guys. Only 2. What? Okay. I thought I was being safe with Blade Runner because I was trying to spare you guys some additional heartbreak. Guys. I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. Does anybody have any direction they're kind of leaning here? You want to work collaboratively, or you want to make me process this by myself?
I mean, I think that there's a couple movies that could fit pretty perfectly here, and I don't know. I don't know what we've just disagreed on what they are. I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to tell you what I think they should be, right? I don't know.
It just can't. It can't be anything. That's the thing. I've got like a set top 5. They have to be those. I don't know what else to do. Bryan, do you feel similarly? Are there titles that definitely belong in this 8 and 9 spot? Because I have another pick after this, guys, and this is not shaping up well for me or for us.
I agree with Sophie. There are some films that I would put in these spots and everything.
It's just I know that they're in your top 5, Ethan. Like I know.
I know, and I'm being stubborn, and I don't want them out of my top 5. And I know exactly the movie you guys are referring to, and I refuse to do it. It will not.
I don't know if we're referring to the same movie. Who knows?
Oh, guys. Okay. All right, we got to make some decisions. This is podcasting. We got to do it live. We got to go here. Okay. Shoot. Well, I don't like to put it this low because those 2 movies are definitely showing back up on the board. So that means out of the top 8, we've got 2 of those spots claimed, leaving 6. Now, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 movies that I think have to be in here. That's the struggle that I'm dealing with now, is because I've got some things on the bubble that I'm like considering bouncing in, but then I think it makes our draft a little too chaotic, and I get worried something bounces out. Okay, we're going to play another movie that I unfortunately didn't have the chance to visit, but something that, while I haven't seen in a while, I remember it being quite good, and a style that I really just try to emulate in my life. I'm going to go with The Place Beyond the Pines here at number 9. This is the kind of let me rephrase. This is the kind of look that I want to have in my life. I want to be tatted out, I want to smoke, and I want to have bleach hair, and I want to be Ryan Gosling. And I want to be married to Eva Mendes. Unfortunately, that's Ryan Gosling's real life, and that is not my real life. It is also his life in this film, The Place Beyond the Pines, a movie with Ben Mendelsohn, as well as Bradley Cooper as a cop. Shout out my boy Coops, just winning in everything that he does. Can't stop that guy from reining it in. So I'm going to go with The Place Beyond the Pines at number 9.
I think this is a good spot for this movie. I think this is a very good spot.
Seal
for this
of approval,
movie.
Huh? I finally figured it out. I cracked the
code. No, this is a very good spot. And the way that I was looking at it was that I wasn't even sure if this was going to make the 10, but I'm really glad that it's at least in the 10.
Making the 10.
Like, thank God. Thank God.
Okay. I haven't seen it.
Oh my God.
Oh, what? Oh my God. I haven't seen it. Well, there's our problem. That's why things are a little more difficult. Okay.
Why do you think I chose the drafter with the least amount of picks?
Interesting strategy to come into this draft. Okay, so we're gonna go with Place Beyond the Pines at number 9. Okay, I don't feel good about that. I personally had it quite a lot higher. I think it's a pretty good movie, and really really, I think it's like peak cool Ryan Gosling. Contrary to what some other people might say about some other films. Okay, so is it back to me for number 8?
Yep.
Okay, it is. Well, things could get really, really interesting here, couldn't they? Should I do it? You want me to do it?
Don't even know what you're implying.
You know what I'm implying, Bryan. Guys, I gotta be frank with you here. Your veto strategy is ass.
Yeah,
it's not
it was
good.
bad. It was bad.
You guys bit the bullet. You guys really did not plan for this. So again, I find myself in another collaborative draft in which I can play the villain, I can play the hero. I don't feel good about it, but sometimes that's what a collaborative draft requires. A little villainy, a little mischievous misadventure. And while, again, I'm not feeling good about it, I just have a set. I essentially have a set 6, and we gotta work towards that, guys. That's the goal. My 6 here. So I feel like we should play. Who do I want to piss off here? Do I want to piss off Sophie or do I want to piss off Bryan? Which one do I do? State your cases.
I mean, you played Blade Runner 2049 first, so you want that lower, right?
Wow, that's pretty good. Hard to argue with that logic.
Wow.
State your case, Bryan. I'm here. I'm an open book. I can swing either way. I can appease all parties.
He's speechless.
Speechless. just thought he was coming in prepared. Veto got screwed out of him. Now you're in a tough spot. I'm going to be honest with you. If you guys want me to stick to my personal list, things could get really dirty right now. But I don't think you want to do that. I think we want to play above the belt until we get to like 5. How high do you want Blade Runner, Bryan? What's your ideal? Just give me a range.
Want a number 6?
Number 6. Well, that's interesting you say that because you have the number 6 pick. So.
Oh, do I? Whoops.
So.
Come on, what's just play it now?
Play Blade Runner?
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. In good conscience, I can't look at a list and be like, yeah, Crazy Stupid Love better than Blade Runner. Can't do it.
Okay, but we're talking about the performances here.
Okay, but wrapped in those performances, those are the sweet little chocolate center. But in that, you have a nice hard caramel around the outside. You also have a wrapper that you have to get into. We've got a whole package we have to consider.
Yeah.
We can't just consider the singular performance of, quite honestly, a movie that thrives on 6 or 7 performances.
Oh, so you're saying Blue Valentine should be here?
Absolutely not. And at no point has this come up in conversation, and we should keep it out of our mouths until we even get to number 3. Quite honestly.
Shut up. Oh my gosh.
I swear to God. I swear to God. Like I said, things can get real villainous real fast. I gave my hand a couple of weeks ago in the 2010s draft.
Okay,
I respect Blue Valentine.
Do you want to make a deal?
I'm always open to make a deal.
Okay, if you don't play Crazy Stupid Love here, I won't play Blue Valentine next.
Can I trust you though? Because you're grinning pretty big right now. Can I trust you?
I'm making a deal. I mean, come on. I'll stick to the deal.
I've never made a deal with you before, and I feel like this is dangerous territory. I feel like once I make a deal with you, things go south. You're laughing.
I'll
stick to the deal. You step away from the mic and you laugh.
I'm sticking to the deal. I promise.
Okay, fair. Okay, so let's think collaboratively here for a second, okay? Bryan, you want Blade Runner 2049 at number 6. Okay? I don't want Blue Valentine at 7. We can play anything else. Well, not anything else. But we can play something else. So in this number 8 spot. Well, shoot. Okay, I'm going to play. Can't play Blade Runner 2049. I can't play Crazy Stupid Love. Fuck. You guys really put me in a pickle.
I mean, you can do whatever you want, but.
Well, I mean, look, now that the proposition of a deal is on the table, we gotta maintain the animosity here. We gotta be as a team.
This is some crazy podcasting.
You guys know, I feel like you know that there's one movie that I'm vying for, that I'm working really hard to get up the board. And that is what's causing this issue. And it's a personal problem of mine. And it's something that I have to deal with. Because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bite the bullet for you guys. You guys can get out of here. Okay, we're going to play... We're going to... Jesus fucking Christ. I literally don't know. I don't know. Guys, I've never found myself in this position. The wheels have stopped turning. Gosling has done it to me. He's ruined me. He's ruined my drafting abilities.
This is what the listeners have been waiting for. This is what the listeners have been waiting for.
This number 8 pick has been going on for like more minutes than it should have right now. Okay. I'm just gonna do it. I am going to play a movie that I really, 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 really like, and a movie that I feel like I need to play here in order to get something further up the board that I also really, really, really like. And I'm kind of going to hate myself for doing this, but I'm going to play The Nice Guys at number 8. I like The Nice Guys. I think it's a very good film. I think Ryan Gosling in particular, very good in this movie. He's hilarious. Unfortunately, I think Gosling is kind of one of the only things about this movie that works. And I know this kind of has like a big cult following, and I recently rewatched it. I gave it 4 stars. I got a lot of people saying like, hey, you forgot a star. Hey, you should rate it 5. I get it. I'm super happy for you. It's a pretty average movie with a really good Ryan Gosling performance. So I'm going to play The Nice Guys at number 8.
Incredible. This is exactly what I wanted to happen.
The deal pulls through.
The deal pulled off, baby.
Let's go.
My personal ranking, I had it at number 8 as well. I remember, like, people were hyping this movie up to me for so long, and it really did sound very up my alley, being like a 70s comedy starring Ryan Gosling. But I agree. I think he's kind of the only thing that works for me. I don't love Russell Crowe in the movie. I don't find myself like wanting to rewatch it really. It was a good fine time. And I wish I liked it as much as everyone else does, but I think this is a perfect spot for it.
Wow. I just cannot express to you the relief that I feel right now hearing those words out of your mouth. I worked so hard to get to this point, and we did it. And now we can just move on with our lives. Holy shit.
Yep.
Except we have another person to consider here. We have Bryan, who still hasn't said anything. Making me a little worried.
I was just waiting for Sophie to say her piece. I probably am higher on this movie than you guys, but I'm okay with it being at number 8 because looking at my personal Gosling ranking, my top 8 films are like 4.5 out of 5 to 5-star films. And I think number 8 is a really good spot for this. And even though I'm much more positive on the film than you guys, clearly, I do agree that Gosling was definitely the strongest element of the movie. Like, he is the true MVP of that movie. There are lines that he says throughout the movie that may not necessarily be funny, but it's because how he delivers it is so spot on. And this, to me, was another reminder that comedic Gosling is really great when utilized properly. And I do wish that we got more studio comedies like this, because I feel like a majority of the studio comedies that have come out the last 10 years have really not been that good. I feel like a majority of the comedies that come out nowadays are smaller independent films, and every once in a while we'll get a film released by a big studio. And I think this one's really, really great. I do love 70s crime films, noir films. The soundtrack is great. It kind of reminded me a bit of something of like Paul Thomas Anderson vibes mixed with a more comedic vibe, which I really dug. And yeah, I think number 8 is a really, really good spot for this. And Gosling with a porn stash, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. Big agree on that one. Jesus Christ. Okay. I feel like we've just completed the draft. I feel good about where we're at.
Oh boy.
That is if people stick to their words. Because if you don't, then we've got some serious problems here on the show.
I stick to my word. I stick to my word. Don't worry.
Do you actually, though?
Okay. Sophie, you're up at number 7.
Yes.
First pick of yours in this draft.
Yes. Okay. I'm sticking to my word because I'm a good human being, and Ethan and I host this show together and are gonna have, hopefully a long relationship of making deals. And I need, I need to stay safe and be a good girl.
Stay safe? It makes me sound like I'm like my vengeance is out. Like, I'm not that mean. I just play the
Ethan,
game, Sophie.
You can raise your voice on this podcast. Listeners know. They knew the whole time, and they let it happen. There it was.
It could have been you. It could have been me. It could have been any of us.
There it was.
They knew. They let it happen.
They knew. All right. So, I have the 7th pick. I don't know how you guys are going to feel about this because I don't really know your relationship to this movie. It's a movie I really love. It's a director that I really, really love. I'm going to play First Man.
Oh boy.
At number 7. I don't know. This is a movie that obviously I think my relationship to Damien Chazelle is pretty out there, but it's definitely my least favorite of his films just because I do feel that it's pretty safe. It's not, I wouldn't call it boring, but it's not like the most fun to watch. It's not the most rewatchable, but I think Ryan Gosling's great in it. He really humanizes the real figure of Neil Armstrong. I'm excited to see him as an astronaut once again in Project Hail Mary. That's one of my favorite books. I think he fits the role well, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think that this is one of his best performances, so I think it belongs outside of the top 5, therefore playing it at 7.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
This is interesting. This is very interesting. Bryan, I'll pass to you. I'm curious of your First Man thoughts.
First Man, I'm with you, Soph, to where I also love Damien Chazelle and I love his work and everything. This is also probably my least favorite of the 4 films that he's made and everything these last 10 years. It's not the most rewatchable film, like you said. It's not the most exciting film, like you said. It's a huge downer. It's not the most uplifting film out there. I think number 7 is a great spot for it because there was a huge part of me that thought it would end up lower before we hopped on to record this. But I think number 7 is great. A lot of people really give this movie kind of flack for some odd reason because it's very slow. It's very, you could say that it's, some people look at it as dull, but I think it's engaging the entire time. I like that Chazelle presented this different side of him following La La Land with this very unconventional biographical drama about Neil Armstrong landing the moon. I like that it wasn't a cradle to grave story about the man and everything. The directions that this film goes, you would not expect the guy who made La La Land and Whiplash to make a film like this. And the filmmaking on display is really astonishing. Like the cinematography, the score, the visual effects. This won a few Oscars. It was nominated for a few awards as well. It's a technical marvel. Again, it's the weakest of Chazelle's last 4 movies. But I'm glad that it's here on the list. I think number 7 is a very, very good spot. And I will say, if anyone listening got to see this in the theater when it came out in IMAX, it was honestly one of the best IMAX theater experiences of my entire life. The sound was unlike anything that I had witnessed at that point, and the moon landing sequence is one of the best scenes of the last 10 years, in my opinion. It was beautifully executed. As someone who studied a lot of space in college and someone who followed the moon landing throughout high school and college, just researching it, I thought this was a beautiful film. And yeah, it's one of my favorites from Gosling, and I'm really glad that it's here on the list of where it's at.
Yeah, look, I like First Man. I think it's something different from Gosling. I think it is probably his most different performance that he has given. I I haven't watched the film recently, so I don't have a lot of thoughts to share on it. But what I can say is that First Man was on the bubble for me. And this was a movie that I was considering putting in that makes the rest of the draft impossible. Because now one of these spots has been taken by First Man. And there are some movies that need to be on this list. And I'm fearful for what is to come. Because Gosling has put us in between a rock and a hard place here. Gosling and Sophie, really. Tag team, just screwing up the collab draft. So, look, I'm not going to veto it. I think First Man at 7 is fine. I would have played it much lower in terms of like Gosling performances, but this is the life we live. So, we've got to move on. Bryan, you've got number 6. You locked and loaded? I feel like
I'm very locked and loaded. So, number 6, Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
I have such an odd relationship with the first Blade Runner. I understand why people regard it as one of the greats of the sci-fi genre and even cinema, but I never fully understood the love for it. However, the sequel, I think, is more emotionally captivating. I think it's more enthralling. I think it's more exciting, more emotional. There's a lot of things throughout this movie that honestly shouldn't have worked the way they did, but leave it to Denis Villeneuve for knocking it out of the park. The idea of making a sequel to a film that came out almost 40 years prior and somehow making it to be on the same level or even to some people better than the original, which is already regarded as a classic among so many, that's a huge accomplishment. And this is subdued Ryan Gosling. He has a lot of restraint. He's holding a lot in. Then he obviously has his outburst scene. Ethan, you brought up that sequence where he's yelling and he's screaming, and that's obviously such a enthralling scene to witness because the entirety of the movie he's very restrained and holding a lot in. So for him to explode all of a sudden was it caught me off guard, but in the best way. This is not a film that I've revisited that much. I've admittedly only seen it once. I saw it in the theater when it came out, opening weekend, and I have not got back to it since. Actually, no, I don't think I have gone back to it. It's a lot to get into, and yeah, I just think that in terms of the films that has come out in Ryan Gosling's catalog, this is one of the strongest to come out, especially in recent memory. And I also think that this holds the title of one of the best sequels to come out in recent memory, one of the best legacy sequels as well, because again, the original Blade Runner is bestowed as one of the greatest films ever made, and yet the sequel somehow finds a way of being on the same level as that. And yeah, it introduced us further to bigger scope sci-fi from Denis Villeneuve, because he made Arrival right before this, and that was a lot smaller. And then this was obviously huge with scope. And then he followed this with the Dune films, which, of course, we all know how those turned out to be. And yeah, Blade Runner 2049 is exceptional. Again, it's not a film that everybody seems to love, even though there is a huge fan base for it. I get why some people aren't as OMG or over the moon about this movie as others, but I think this is one of the strongest in Ryan Gosling's filmography. And even though I vetoed it from where Ethan had it originally, it made it seem like I wanted it in my top 5. I think number 6 is a really strong spot, because when people talk about Ryan Gosling films and make top 10 lists, I feel like this is right there on the list. Maybe not in the top 5, but right outside the top 5.
Yeah. I'm very pro Blade Runner 2049. I like
Are
this
you
movie.
Really?
Yeah. Why would you question my intentions with Blade Runner? What are you doing?
I'm kidding.
Yes, I feel like I'm being interrogated. I just got hooked up to a lie detector. Holy crap. Yes,
are you pro Blade Runner 2049, Sophie?
Holy cow.
What'd you say, Bryan? Do I like Blade Runner?
Yeah, are you pro Blade Runner 2049?
I am, yeah. It's better
Are you,
than...
Sophie?
I am. I am. check the LB right now.
Bro,
yeah, I
same.
think...
Check the LB. I got it up there.
I think it's better than the original. I think it's one of the best movies that Gosling is in.
Yes.
But But not much to add, Bryan. You did a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Blade Runner 2049 is really good. Obviously, you mentioned Arrival, Bryan, but this kind of kicks off Denis' fascination with IP and making IP big, which I really adore. And I'm glad that he did, because if he didn't do this, who knows if we ever get Dune the way we get Dune. So yeah, it's tough to get stuck into like a 2 hour and 44-minute movie. But I think once you get in, it's entirely worth the trip, and kind of creates the subgenre of big guys in little glasses, which I always appreciate. I think is a big win for film in general. Okay, Blade Runner 2049 at 6. This is where things get weird. And look, I'm gonna make them weird, and I feel good about it, and I can't wait to see what happens in 25 seconds when you guys vehemently just roast me. And I just cannot wait. So without further ado, number 5, I'm going to play a movie that most people, I would say everybody, probably doesn't think of as one of Gosling's best, or even really in the Ryan Gosling kind of filmography. It's a movie that I think is a 5-star film from a very apparently divisive filmmaker. I'm going to go with The Big Short at number 5. I think his role as Jared Vennett, when he says, "I'm jacked to the tits," is everything that you need to know about this being in the 5 spot. Sophie, give it to me. I saw the eye roll. What are you doing? What's going on? What's going on in the brain?
I mean, I knew this was going to happen. I, first of all, have not seen The Big Short. Let me just make that clear.
So if you could speak on it a little bit, that would be great.
But I have, just like you've been saying this whole podcast, I have a top 5 that I feel passionate about.
Damn it.
And I don't really know I don't know if I want to veto this, but I just want you to know that one of your other movies, like, it might not be here because you played this instead.
Right. I totally understand. And I think that is a risk that we have to take together as a team. And we just have to dive in to the deep end together and hope that things, survive. Hope that we come back to the surface of the Ryan Gosling draft. Because,
all right, then I have nothing else to add.
It feels, and honestly, this is what is so fun about a collaborative draft, is that 15 minutes ago, when we were playing number 8 and 9, I thought I had the board in my hands. I thought I had the power. And now that I've played The Big Short, I realize that I fucked myself, and I should have played The Big Short in a position in which I knew it would cause no harm. And now things, like I said, are getting very, very dicey. And so it's a tough spot. Bryan, have you seen The Big Short?
I have seen The Big Short. I saw it when it came out.
Yeah, you have.
I have indeed. I'm usually a big fan of Adam McKay, so, take that with a grain of salt if you have to. But Gosling is so fucking good in this movie that it is unfortunate that when people talk about this movie, and I don't know how you feel about this, Ethan. I know you just said it's a 5-star movie, but do you think the Ron performance got the Oscar nomination? Because while Christian Bale was good in the movie, there was nothing about that performance that was Oscar worthy, even in the slightest, at least for me personally. Like, when I walked out The Big Short, I didn't think, oh my God, Christian Bale is amazing. I thought specifically about Ryan Gosling because he's the narrator of the movie. He's the guy that we see the most throughout the movie. The black hair is absolutely nuts, but he rocks it 100%. There's a lot of great lines that he delivers. I mean, tell me the difference between stupid and illegal and how my wife brothers arrested. That's incredible. That's only someone like Gosling could deliver a line like that. It just works so well. The fact that that's Oscar-winning dialogue is just so insane to me. But yeah, I really like the movie a lot. Admittedly, this is another one that I haven't revisited in a very long time, probably since it came out. But obviously, since I don't have any more vetoes, I can't veto this. And even if I did, there's really, it's a good film. I'm not going to push it off the list.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you with 2 answers. You raised the Oscar question, which I think is a great question. Coming out of this movie, I think while I understand the Christian Bale nomination, I think Steve Carell should have gotten
Absolutely.
a nod for Mark Baum. And then I also think Jeremy Strong should have gotten a nod for Best Supporting. I think he is delivering obviously a pre-Succession performance that is very Succession coded.
This is probably how he came onto Succession, because Adam McKay directed the pilot of Succession and everything.
Yes, that would be my guess. So, my second answer to you, and really to the group here, Sophie, you're the only one with a veto that could play in this situation. You mentioned another one of my favorite films, obviously Blue Valentine. If we keep The Big Short at 5, I just want to poke the beast a little bit here. Can you risk me playing Blue Valentine at number 2? Because I've done it before, and I'll do it again. That's not a threat. It's just a statement of fact.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that if you want.
Okay. Okay, let's just
I'm
let it play.
I'm not using my veto here. If that
let's just let it play. Okay.
We're going.
I'm really worried. I'm really, really nervous for what's to
You
come.
should be.
And this is where things get terrible. Okay, we're keeping The Big Short at number 5. Wow, I feel really good about that, and I got my prize on the board. And in a top 5 spot. God, that's gonna create a lot of havoc on the graphic. People are not gonna like that, but I'm okay with that. Okay. Sophie, you've got number 4. You're the only person with 2 picks left. Best of luck.
Thank you. All right, at number 4, I'm going to play Crazy Stupid Love. We have talked about it. I needed it in the top 5, so it's going to be here. I think that this is just a classic Playboy role for Ryan Gosling. Like, I think I saw this like when it came out, and I just thought that's kind of like who Ryan Gosling was in real life. Like, he just plays it so effortlessly, and the movie just really utilizes his charm. He has great chemistry with Emma Stone, obviously, but also Steve Carell in the film. And it just has one of the best twists, endings of all time. It might be, overly clipped on social media platforms, but it doesn't mean it's not incredible. And it shocked me the first time I watched it. So I love this movie a lot. I think it's essential Ryan Gosling. So it has to be in the top 5.
I concur. Are you Steve Jobs? Are you the billionaire owner of Apple Computers? Be better than the Gap, Cal.
Guys.
Be better than the Gap.
Guys.
All right, Ethan,
Okay.
you going to do something about it, or?
God, this has gotten really hostile. Every time we interact, it's hostility thrown back and forth. Here's the position. I've got one veto. Obviously, I feel like we all as a unit, as a team, as a collaborative team, agree on what the number 1 should be. It's putting a lot of faith in you guys, but I feel pretty good about it. The 2, 3, and 4, again, is where things get interesting. I just look, I gotta be frank here. I trust you, Sophie, more than I trust Bryan, because Bryan's a guest on this show. You're my co-host. So I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it where it is. And we're going to see what happens on a number 3 play.
All right.
Crazy Stupid Love. Great movie. Again, another movie with Steve Carell. Love to see it. Just a big win. I got nothing else to add. It's at our number 4 spot.
Cool.
Okay. Cool.
This is going to be crazy.
This is going to get weird. I don't like this.
How do you think I feel? I think I'm in the worst position of all of you.
I do think you are. I do indeed.
I'm very much in the worst position. Okay. Okay, so here's the tricky situation with this number 3. Now, I have a feeling of what the top 2 are going to be. However, there are 2 films that are very crucial to Gosling's filmography that we have not talked about yet. And I am contemplating which one I want to put. One of them would be for personal bias, and the other would be for the sake of this draft. Because I know that if I don't put a certain film on this list, you guys are going to get a lot of flack for it.
Yes, we are.
and I don't want to be the reason behind that. So you're on pins and needles right now. You're on thin ice right now, regardless.
Welcome
of
to the
what
collaborative draft, Bryan. This is how we play.
From my eyes, if we have 3 spots left, there are 3 movies that should very clearly be here, but Ethan will not let that happen.
I vehemently disagree.
But Ethan will not let that happen. But none of our Twitter voters are going to agree with Ethan, so Ethan's going to have to face the wrath.
I'm already a lost cause. I played the Big Short at 5. I got nothing else to lose, quite honestly.
Yeah, this is bad. This is bad.
Like, there is such a clear 1, 2, 3 here. It's crazy.
What are you guys missing about Blue Valentine? Like, when you watch
Blue
that
Valentine
movie,
is a great movie.
What are you like? Ryan Gosling, he didn't show up for this one. That's
it's a great movie, but it should be in number 9.
No, it should not.
Somebody shouldn't have played First Man, because that's a 12 movie right there. We would have had a perfect 11. We could have had it all.
No, First Man deserves to be in the 11. That's just how it's gonna be. That movie deserves to be there.
All right, Bryan.
Look, Bryan, make the call, man. I got a veto burning a hole in my pocket, so I'm feeling a little antsy.
Fuck.
I can make you the bad guy. I don't have to be the bad guy.
I'm already the bad guy. I'm already the bad guy.
I know that you've seen a movie that should be in this top 3, and you've rated it 5 stars. So if you do not play it here, I can't trust anything you put on Letterboxd anymore. It's just simple as that.
Fuck. God damn it. What makes you think you won't put it at, what makes you think you won't put that film at your number 2?
Who's to say? Any reality
there's
is possible.
No way. Oh, God.
This is so
all right.
absurd.
If you're leaving this on me,
make a decision, Bryan.
See, this should.
Why
be
don't you
2.
guys trust me? What if I play the right movie at number 2?
I do.
You won't.
There's no trust. What if I surprise you? What if?
Okay.
What if I do?
Okay, the film that you're hinting at that I gave 5 stars to, there's no way that whatever film gets put in number 2 is better than that film. I'm sorry, but I'm just speaking the truth right here. So,
we all have our own truths. It's okay. I get it.
Number 3, I am going to put...
It's easy number 3.
Oh my God, shut up! I'm going to put Blue Valentine at number 3.
Wow, this is shocking. Absolutely shocking. What a turn of events.
Bryan,
oh my God,
no.
I'm speechless. You gave into the pressure, Bryan. I was going to help you guys. I want to work together.
Well, you better pick the correct film to go in number 2.
Oh, this is fascinating.
Honestly, this leaves you in a much stressed position than me, because the films that I could have chosen, if they aren't in the top 2, that's a problem right there.
Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what we're going to do.
Oh, jeez.
Sophie, out of your mouth, there's a pretty clear 3, correct? 3, 2, 1.
Yep.
A couple of weeks ago, I got the privilege to play Blue Valentine at number 2 in a collaborative draft. I feel really good about it. I'm going to keep that with me until the day that I die, and I'll actually probably put it on my gravestone. And that made me very happy. Do I need to do it again? No. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say, for the listeners listening to this absolutely maniacal podcast, Blue Valentine, great film. Check it out. One of Gosling's best performances. Bryan, I'm going to veto your Blue Valentine. Pick a new movie.
Fuck yeah.
Pick a new movie. We've got to, even I am not above the clear top 3 contenders here. It's absurd. It's absurd.
Oh, Ethan, I love you.
I thank you. I personally know where Blue Valentine sits in my heart, where it sits in my life, where it sits on my Letterboxd ranking. And I can go to bed happy at night. If you haven't seen Blue Valentine, check it out. Bryan, I'm so proud of you for giving into my peer pressure and my strategy, and I'm glad to know that it works. But I'm going to save your ass today.
You know, after being with you for a week in Texas, I feel like this was meant to happen. Okay, but let me pose a question to the 2 of you. What do you think that I'm going to choose at number 3? What do you think I'm going to choose?
For for me, it's kind of clear, but I don't know. It might be the unpopular opinion.
I don't want to say. I don't want to say.
You have to answer. I need to know. I have to know.
I'm not gonna make this
because
decision
I just pulled a Tyler Whitmore and I looked at what you rated these two films, and you have them rated the exact same rating on Letterboxd.
I think that what you should play here is Drive.
Interesting. I think you should play Barbie here.
That was my
dilemma. Pick a friend, Brian. Pick a friend. One of us.
Again, am I going to go with the personal? Am I going to go with what I personally love more than the other? Or am I going to go for what is meant to be here? I'm so sorry to all your fans, but I don't give a fuck. I'm going with Drive at number 3.
Damn it. God damn it. We could have had it all.
You know what? Look, Drive is honestly one of my all-time favorite films. And if this film did not make the list, I actually would have been very, very, very ticked off. I would not have been okay. I probably would have turned into the driver towards the end of the movie and gone and wreak havoc. You would have seen me on the 11 o'clock news. It would not have been pretty at all. Wow. So
I'm glad we saved you from that life. Could have been detrimental.
Well, it wasn't. So just to
Drive is a great movie. I think you made the right pick.
It's so Except good. It's so good, and I have tried to watch everything else that Nicholas Winding Refn has directed, and unfortunately, everything else that I've seen from him just doesn't come close to Drive. I think Drive is so thrilling. It's paced so beautifully, and this was the start of stoic Ryan Gosling that people were frustrated with after one movie. They were like, could Ryan Gosling just be the charming guy? No, let him cook and let him do something else. And he kicked ass. It made me want to buy that Scorpion jacket. Someone almost bought it for me years ago, and they ended up not doing it. And I was really depressed because I would have rocked that jacket even if I had it. And the soundtrack is insane. Synthy, neon lights, all that stuff is incredible. I'm usually not a fan of that, but for some reason it works beautifully here. And it has one of the coolest ensembles on screen ever. Mm-hmm. On top of Ryan Gosling, you got Carey Mulligan, Bryan Cranston, Oscar Isaac, Ron Perlman, Christina Hendricks, and Albert Brooks in a performance that honestly should have garnered him an Oscar nomination. Like, what are we doing? And this is going to be very funny to admit. When I first saw this movie when it came out, I wasn't as well-rounded with actors' names and everything. So, of course, when I heard him first speak, I'm like, is that the dad from Finding Nemo?
Hell like, yeah,
what the fuck?
Brian, I do that in every single movie that I watch with him in it.
Yeah,
I'm like,
for real.
Like it's Marlon.
But like literally Marlon, like being a terrifying, unhinged villain, it's incredible. Like, truly wonderful stuff. And yeah, I've been a defender of the movie since day one. I think it's so fucking good and deserves way more love than it gets. And I know that it's pretty well liked amongst the film community, but I feel like the discussion towards it has definitely fizzled out these last few years, which is a shame because everything, in my opinion, works so beautifully about this movie. And Gosling, it's a performance that really couldn't have worked if it were in the hands of an actor that wasn't capable of pulling this off. And I think he pulled it off so beautifully. And the fact that this came out in the year that pretty much got even more people to keep their eye on him, and he did 3 very different movies, it just comes to show the range of his skills as an actor, and I really respect that. So I'm putting Drive at number 3.
Yeah, I can't say a lot about it. Look, I wish Drive was at number 2. I think Drive rules, obviously, as most middle-aged white guys do. So I'm glad to keep that trope alive. It is true. We think this movie rocks. Shout out CR, who probably loves Drive. I feel very CR coded. Yeah, Drive is good. Drive is really, really good. Are you pro Drive, Sophie?
Yes, I'm pro Drive. I haven't seen it in quite a while. I feel like it was one of the first movies that when I really got into movies, I was like, oh, this is one I have to see. It was when I was watching like 5 movies a day during COVID. So I honestly didn't even remember that Albert Brooks was in it until you just brought it up. So maybe it's time for a revisit. But I know it's essential to Ryan Gosling cinema, and I think this is a good place for it.
It is essential indeed to Ryan Gosling cinema. Okay. I've got the number 2 spot. Obviously, I kind of gave you guys my word that I wouldn't play Blue Valentine here. I wouldn't feel bad about it if I did, but I'm not gonna. I'm not that guy. I can't go back after what such an olive branch that Sophie extended to me. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Again, Blue Valentine should be on this list. Number 2, I'm gonna go with Barbie. Obviously, his performance as Ken garnered him an Oscar nomination. One of the greatest Academy Awards moments in the last 25 years, probably one of the best performances in the last 25 years at the Academy Awards. Endlessly quotable, essentially ruled the summertime vibe, and I think this performance in particular is really interesting to me because it is Gosling doing what he does best, which is like being charming and funny, and he's kind of doing it all under the sheen of a Barbie, of a Ken doll. But also, I feel like this performance tips him over into being self-aware Gosling. I think before this, he just does what he does best, and he might have a sense of that, but he brings an authenticity. And I think the character of Ken forces him to become more self-aware and more meta of what his box office qualities are. And I don't know if that's inherently a positive thing. So I'm a little torn on like a 2 spot for Barbie, but I think it's undeniable the cultural impact that this has had, the career impact that it has had. So Barbie at number 2.
Yay.
I can't believe we ended up
perfect.
Here. This is crazy.
One might say this performance is sublime. Not sure this role would be good in literally anyone else's hands. Like, I truly think that Ryan Gosling was born to play Ken. I love that he leans into the silliness and just really goes for it. And Barbie in general, I was lukewarm on the first time I saw it, but I just think it keeps getting better and better every time I watch it, and I think it's going to age so well.
I disagree with that. I think
really?
every time that I watch it, I'm more turned off from Barbie, unfortunately.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
I was pretty high on it the first couple of times that I saw it, and I don't know if it's due to like having young girls who love watching Barbie, so I just catch bits of it all the time, which I think is fantastic. I'm so happy they're watching it, but I don't think it holds up upon many repeat viewings. Very interesting take.
Wow. Okay, Bryan, what do you think?
I saw it so many times in theaters when it came out, but I've never really had a desire of really rewatching it, which is a shame because I was very high on Barbie when it came out, and I was a huge fan of it, and so many people gave me flack that I didn't put it in my top 10 of the year. And that doesn't mean that I didn't like the movie. I was a big fan of it, of course, but I definitely feel like my interest in watching it definitely plummeted because it was what everybody was talking about. And again, deservingly so. It's a very strong film, and obviously for that kind of movie to come out and garner the success critically and commercially that it did was a huge win, in the fact that it ended up being this huge awards player, which everyone kept on saying from the get-go that it was, and I didn't buy that for a second. And then once the award season started and everyone kept nominating it, I was like, man, this really is the awards juggernaut that it ended up being. And I will say that Ryan Gosling's performance getting nominated, that's one of the best Oscar nominations for acting in recent memory, because I really, really love, and I think I said this to Ethan when we watched the Oscars together when we were at South by, I love when the Academy actually decides to step out of their comfort zone and nominate a straight up comedic performance, because not every performance that deserves Oscar nomination should just be the most somber, serious, heartbreaking performances. Comedy is a very hard thing to pull off, and Gosling has proved himself time after time that he is an exceptionally gifted comedic actor. And the fact that this performance went the distance and got a freaking Oscar nomination is huge. It's absolutely incredible. I would not have put it at number 2. I get why I guess it has to be put at number 2.
It didn't have to, though. That's the thing.
I
didn't have to.
I know, but I'm just saying, I get why it's here, but at the same time, just like, I would have bumped it down just a little bit, but I know that people would not have been happy if it weren't this high on the list.
Look, as Sebastian in La La Land says, fuck them. Guys, we could have made our own destiny here.
This is exactly what I wanted, so I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Well, look, I'm glad that we got what we have at number one, but anyway, anyway, look, Barbie's great, and the Oscar performance, I mean, Ethan literally just screamed, "We're so back! We're so back!"
We're so back!
Screamed in my face. My hearing was gone after that, so, you know.
Dude, what are you going to do
still
when
recovering
you come back
to this
like
day.
That's it's undeniable fame.
You said it like 20 times in the first hour of that ceremony.
This is an interesting performance. I think it's a real inflection point for Ryan Gosling. I'm really interested to see where he goes in his career after this. Okay. Number one spot, Sophie. You got a lot of movies to choose from. Blue Valentine is still available on the board. Anything's possible. Just follow your heart. See where it leads. I got the bullets.
Just looking over everything. No, I'm kidding. The first movie that we all wanted here in the spot is, of course, La La Land. One of the most important movies to me, to all of us. I think in terms of Gosling, it utilizes him in every single way. Like, he is charming, he's funny, he has chemistry with Emma Stone once again. He's an incredible musical performer. And yeah, I mean, I think that this really is the singular Gosling movie that I just have a extreme relationship with, and so therefore it's the one that I revisit the most. And yeah, I love him in this part, and I can't again imagine someone else in it. I just don't think it works. Who was supposed to originally be in the role? Was there someone else?
Miles Teller. It was supposed to be Miles Teller.
Wow.
Gosh,
that's a very different film.
No, it would have been Miles Teller and Emma Watson.
Emma Watson, yes.
Oh, and she dropped out to do Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, well, that's a good dropout because she's.
No, I agree.
Beauty and the Beast rocks.
I agree. Very underrated. Very underrated film.
Best live action Disney movie that's ever been made. Easily, zero question.
Okay. Oh, we don't need to talk about that here now.
It's not the best. It's good.
Wow, Sophie.
Move on. Soph, continue, please.
Anti Emma Watson. Wow, bad take.
I'm not anti Emma Watson. Shut up. But that's just, imagine Miles Teller in this. I'm sorry, that's a disaster.
Oof, terrible.
Wow. Okay, La La Land, perfect movie. Yeah. We all love it. It had to be here. It was always going to be here.
Yeah, look, it's a true collaborative moment, like you said. We're all number one on La La Land, 5-star masterpiece. I don't think there's like a ton to add here. We could delve into a whole La La Land pod, I'm sure, if we continue going. I think this is the perfect conversion of everything that Gosling can do, and it is, funnily enough, if you go through this list, Blue Valentine included, there's lots of movies where he sings, which I think is, obviously he has his band that we can only hope comes back. But I'm glad that he got to do this and got to sing and got to be part of one of the biggest Oscars mix-up in history. So that's exciting. Yeah, La La Land is perfect. Bryan, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
I mean, I can't really add anything that hasn't been said already these last almost 10 years. It's absolutely wild. That's been that long since this movie came out. What a time to be alive when this came out too, especially being in film school. I mean, being a freshman in film school when this came out and everyone wouldn't shut up about it after the Christmas break. I mean, oh my God. I mean, what a moment to be alive. And yeah, I agree. This showcases everything that we love about Gosling curled up into one specific performance, and it has everything that you want in a great Ryan Gosling performance, a great Ryan Gosling film, a great performance, period. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at a poster of it right now, and I adore the film so much. And even it's incredible. It really is incredible. And I also want to pose a question to the two of you. Obviously, you're both so high on this movie, rightfully so. do you think that had this won Best Picture, and technically it did for 3 minutes. It was a Best Picture winner for 3 minutes. Do you think that this would have aged very well as one of the stronger Best Picture winners in recent memory, even though the film that it lost to is still a great movie on its own?
I think that is an inherently exceptionally difficult question to answer, because you could not have two more thematically juxtaposed films going against each other. And La La Land presents, you know, the trope of the white savior of jazz, and Moonlight, obviously a like gay coming of age story for a little black boy. So like they could not be more opposite. I think in terms of films, I wonder if this has remained part of the culture so prominently because it did not win Best Picture. I think if it wins Best Picture and it keeps that award, I'm afraid you get the film Twitter dump and you get the Letterboxd dump, and people are saying what happened with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Enjoy it before people get to it, because it won all these awards. It did win 6 Oscars. It was nominated for 13 or 11. It was something like that. And
14. It was nominated for 14.
I think if it wins, it hurts the historical trajectory of the film. Moonlight, a film not really in the culture. Not a lot of people talk about it. It's still seen as an indie film that just kind of played a hero story of like, it won Best Picture. And so while I enjoy La La Land more, I think the way it played is good. The way that things shook out. Sophie?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, I don't have much to add. I just think the La La Land loyalists, we didn't need a win. Like, we're going to love the movie no matter what.
We know we're better than that.
Yeah.
And we don't need the Academy.
Yeah, we don't need the Academy. Whereas Moonlight, it deserved the win. I think that, I don't know. I think winning Best Picture often does stay in the film, and I'm thankful that hasn't happened to Oppie yet, but it could. I mean, who knows? But I think it often does, and I don't know. But Moonlight deserved it just as much. So, I mean, either way, hard question, but
I think La La Land winning also cements the fact that the Academy remains the Academy, quote unquote, that they've always been, which is movies about musicals and white people. And so I think at that junction in time, it was really important for them to make the right decision, and they did.
True.
And I wonder if the trajectory of the Academy itself would have been differently if La La Land had remained the winner. I don't think the Academy would be maybe nominating Ken for Best Supporting Actor. Like I just don't know where we go. I like La La Land so much that my external hard drive is named Seb. So we'll just leave the conversation at that. Here's our 11. Our Ryan Gosling collaborative draft. Number 11, The Notebook, picked by Bryan. Number 10, Lars and the Real Girl, also picked by Bryan. Number 9, The Place Beyond the Pines, my third choice in the 9th spot, picked by myself. Number 8 was The Nice Guys, picked by myself. Number 7, First Man, picked by Sophie. Number 6, Blade Runner 2049, picked by Bryan. Number 5, The Big Short, picked by myself. Number 4, Crazy Stupid Love, picked by Sophie. Number 3, Drive, picked by Bryan. Number 2, Barbie, kind of picked by myself. And number 1, La La Land, picked by Sophie. How do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about the 11? Think it shook out? Sophie, you seem pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, all the movies that I wanted are here, and a couple sprinkled in that I knew would be here that I hadn't seen yet. I'm excited to check those out. So yeah, perfect list for me.
Wow.
I win.
Must feel nice. This is a collaborative draft. Okay, guys, we either all win or we all lose. I still don't know what has happened. Bryan, how do you feel about the list?
I feel pretty good in the long haul. Just looking back at it, I'm pretty happy with this list. Of course, there's some omissions here. Actually, well, really, there's only one glaring omission here, unfortunately. But that's bound to happen when you do these collaborative drafts and everything. So yeah, overall, thumbs up on this list.
How many spots do we have to have for the Gray Man to make an appearance on this list? Are we going like
how many?
How
many films has he done? How many films has he done?
Yeah, it's the worst. Like 40? I don't know.
I don't disagree with you guys. Yeah, I've got 28 here on my list. So we'll put the Gray Man at 28. Gray Man sequel. You guys think it'll be better or worse? Oh, the silence is stunning.
No comment.
The same.
Who gives a shit? Huge thank you to Bryan Sudfield joining us on the pod. Bryan, thank you so much. If people want to find you, where can they find you at?
Thank you guys for having me. I had such a blast. You guys could find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd simply at Bryan Sudfield.
Awesome. Worth the follow. Bryan, always putting out good content. Thanks for being on the show, man. Sophie, thanks for participating. And just being a co-host of your word. I could not appreciate you more. Really, really does mean a lot. Be sure to listen to the Movie Draft Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes will be released weekly on Tuesdays. I'll see you then.